My dear listeners, this is an original sci-fi story I wrote for you. If you'd like to support me, just subscribe to the channel, it really helps the growth. The thing about Nadia Reyes was that she was a hugger. This had never been professionally relevant before. In 7 years of xenodiplomatic work she had shaken tentacles, touched foreheads, performed the Grethely salute which involved standing perfectly still for 4 minutes while someone breathed on your neck, and once participated in a Muravani greeting ceremony that required all parties to sneeze simultaneously. She had done all of these things with composure and cultural sensitivity and the correct briefing documentation. Nobody had briefed her about the cubs. There were 5 of them today, younger than the cohorts she'd read about in Juno Hale's incident reports. Small enough that the tallest only came to Nadia's shoulder, but dense with the compact musculature of creatures who had been evolutionarily optimized for bringing down things much larger than themselves. Their scales ran from tawny gold to deep mahogany. The eldest, a male named Vrak, had the beginnings of leadership markings along his jaw that hadn't fully come in yet, which gave him the look of someone wearing a costume slightly too large. They had been assigned to accompany Nadia on a tour of the Verith Station's civilian amenities. It was a bonding exercise. Juno had suggested it in a message that Nadia now suspected had been written with deliberate vagueness. The tour had gone well. The cubs were curious and disciplined and asked excellent questions about everything, and Nadia had answered them honestly and without condescension, which she'd been told the Vakran appreciated above most other qualities in a human liaison. They had examined the food hall, the communications hub, the small medical bay with the focused professional interest of young people mentally filing everything away for future reference. It was in the corridor outside the communications hub, on the way back, that Nadia made her mistake. Vrak had just finished explaining, with careful Vakran pride, that he had correctly identified the weakness in the medical bay's ventilation system within 30 seconds of entering the room. He said it the way a human child might report a good grade, not boasting, just sharing, wanting the sharing to be received well. "That's great," Nadia said, with the genuine warmth that was simply her default register, and raised her hand for a high five. She did this without thinking. 7 years of working with humans and various non-human species had not yet successfully cured her of the high five as a reflexive positive response. It happened before the relevant section of her brain could intervene. Her palm was up. Her hand was extended toward Vrak at approximately head height. Vrak looked at her hand. His crest, which had been relaxed and low in the comfortable configuration of a cub having a good afternoon, came fully upright. He slapped her hand. The sound cracked through the corridor like a starter's pistol. The impact traveled up Nadia's arm, rattled her shoulder, and made her back teeth click together. Her hand went from extended to pressed against her sternum in the time it took her to blink, and she stood there for a moment running a rapid internal assessment of which bones might need attention. All of them were fine. It had been very close. Vrak stood with his palm still raised where hers had been, his crest high, his eyes fixed on her with an expression she couldn't immediately read. His jaw was slightly forward. His weight had shifted to his back foot. The 4 younger cubs had gone still. Nadia's hand throbbed. She breathed through it. Years of diplomatic training asserted themselves. Do not react, do not retreat, assess and respond. She looked at Vrak. Vrak looked at her. He was waiting for something. She thought about the weight shift, the jaw, the back foot. She had read something in a cultural briefing months ago about Vakran confrontation posture, about how a challenge delivered and not answered was a social rupture, how the failure to engage was more disruptive than the engagement itself. She had absolutely been challenged. The only question was what answering looked like. She raised her hand again. Vrak's crest flickered. Then he slapped her hand a second time, and she was ready for it this time and absorbed it better, and she grinned at him with every tooth she had and said, "Good." Vrak blinked. His crest lowered, incrementally. He looked at his own raised palm, then at her, then at his palm again with the expression of someone recalculating. "You did not retreat," he said. "No. You received the challenge and you returned it." He lowered his hand slowly. "And then you expressed satisfaction?" "It's a greeting," Nadia said, keeping her voice easy. "Where I come from, you raise your hand like that and someone hits it, and if you both do it right, it means you're glad about something together. It means, 'Good job, I see you.'" We're in this together. She paused. I probably should have explained that first. Vrak was very still in the way that meant thinking, not threat. Around him, the other 4 cubs had drifted closer, pulled in by the particular gravitational field of something interesting happening. The smallest, a female named Peth, was looking between Nadia's hand and Vrak's with intense concentration. You initiated, Vrak said finally. Yes. You raised your palm toward me. Open. He seemed to be working through something. Among our people, an open palm at head height it is not often done. It is an offering of the unguarded surface. The place with no scales. The soft part. He looked at his own palm, then at hers. To raise the soft part toward another and invite the strike, this requires trust. Or, he paused. It is issued as a challenge that expects the other to be strong enough to answer. Both, Nadia said. Sort of. It's both, depending on the relationship. Peth made a small sound. Nadia looked at her. The small cub's rust-gold scales had shifted into the warm flush that Nadia had learned indicated heightened feeling of some kind, positive or negative depending on context. Her eyes were bright. You knew he would strike, Peth said. And you raised the soft part anyway. I didn't know how hard, Nadia said honestly. But yes, essentially. And when he struck, you did not bare your teeth in aggression. You bared them in. Peth stopped. Her translator chip rendered a small burst of static, which meant she'd reached for a word that didn't cross between languages cleanly. In the other thing, she finished. In happiness, Nadia said. Yes. The cubs exchanged a look that moved between them too fast for Nadia to track. The silent shorthand of a clutch that had grown up reading each other's body language before they developed the fine motor control for speech. Vrak looked at the cub to his left, a stocky male named Oru. He raised his palm. Oru hit it. The crack echoed down the corridor. Neither of them flinched. Vrak bared his teeth. After a beat, Oru bared his. They looked, Nadia thought, slightly uncertain about whether they were doing it right, the way people look when they're performing a gesture whose emotional content they're still working out. Again, Vrak said to Oru. They did it again. This time Oru bared his teeth first. Vrak turned back to Nadia. The raised palm is the trust, he said, working it out as he spoke. Because you offer the unguarded surface. And the strike is the confirmation. I see that you trust. I receive it. I answer with equal force. I do not exploit the opening. He paused. And the showing of the teeth is the point, Nadia said. The whole thing is the point. You offered something. I matched it. We're glad we did it. Vrak considered this for a long moment. Then he raised his palm toward her again. And this time there was something different in how he held it. Deliberate, not combative. Offered. Nadia hit it. She put real effort behind it this time, enough that her palm stung, and she grinned at him before the sting fully registered. Vrak bared his teeth. It wasn't quite a smile, anatomically speaking, but the intent was identical. This is a strange greeting, he said. Most good ones are, Nadia said. By the time they reached the docking bay where the cub's guardian was waiting, all 5 of them had high-fived each other, high-fived Nadia, and attempted to high-five a passing station technician named Gorvith who had not been briefed and whose coffee had not survived the encounter. Nadia apologized. Gorvith, to his credit, took it well. Her communicator buzzed that evening. Juno hail, Nadia. There is a report from the Cubs Guardian that you taught them a combat greeting involving deliberate exposure of vulnerability followed by consensual impact and mutual expression of approval. He wants to know if this is standard human salutation or something specific to your regional culture. Nadia flexed her hand, which had faded from throbbing to a dull, warm ache, the kind that felt deserved. Both she typed back. It's called a high five. He says they performed it on each other for 2 hours after returning to quarters and that Vrak has asked for it to be formally incorporated into pre-hunt preparation ritual as a demonstration of clutch trust. Nadia looked at her palm. At the soft, unguarded surface of it. That's probably the most accurate description of a high five I've ever heard, she replied. A pause. Then Juno, your hand okay? It'll be fine by Thursday, Nadia typed. Rookie mistake. Always tuck the thumb, Juno replied. There was no thumb-tucking briefing. There is now. I'm writing it as we speak. Working title, Open Palms. A field guide to accidental Vakran combat initiation. Put my name on it, Nadia said. I earned the byline. She put her communicator away and sat for a moment in the quiet of her quarters, hands still warm, thinking about Vrak's face when she'd raised her palm back the second time. The recalculation happening behind his eyes. The way the uncertainty had moved through the whole clutch and come out the other side as something that looked, if you knew what to look for, remarkably like delight. She raised her palm toward the empty room, held it there. Then she lowered it, went to find ice, and started mentally drafting her incident report, which was going to be difficult to file under any existing category.